Hello, this is Mr. D. I wanted to share another Walter the Farting book with you today. Walter the Farting Dog, banned from the beach. I hope everybody's happy and healthy in this time of quarantine. Again, this is for anybody who's ever been misjudged or misunderstood. Hopefully everybody can see that. So a little backstory. It starts out kind of confusing. They're at a resort. So, Mr. and Mrs. Krabby were having a ton of fun. There was sand and sea and sunshine every day. There was swimming and snorkeling and parasailing and lots of staff to boss around. You there, called Mr. and Mrs. Krabby to the pool attendant. Get that leaf out of the water. And bring us some fresh towels, said Mr. Krabby. Make it snappy. If only that dog weren't ruining my view, said Mrs. Krabby. There's Walter. This is Mr. and Mrs. Krabby. They look crabby. The dog was Walter, digging happily in the sand. You never know where an old bull might be hiding. He detected something under the sand and dug more frantically. Treasure! A bone, and it's a big one. He strained to tug it free and let an enormous fart. The umbrella that was shading Mr. and Mrs. Krabby was blown into the sea. They watched aghast as it was carried away by the undertow. At that moment, father and mother arrived with Betty and Billy. Mr. Krabby stomped over to father. Is this your dog? Yes, admitted father, that's our Walter. He shouldn't be allowed on the beach, shouted Mr. Krabby. He blew away our umbrella. It couldn't have been Walter, it was probably just the sea breeze. The sea breeze doesn't smell like that, said Mrs. Krabby. They do look very crabby. There's Walter's fart. I think the fish passed out from the smell. That evening, Mother said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had our own little vacation home right on the beach? We can't afford it, said Father, who just bought himself a new set of golf clubs. Typical men. Walter eats us out of house and home, and then he blames Walter on spending all of his money. Walter farted guiltily. There was a knock at the door. It was the manager of the resort. We've been getting complaints about that dog of yours. We can't allow him on the beach. I didn't see any rule against dogs in your brochure, said Father. It's a new rule, and it starts today. The manager stomped off. Sorry, Walter, said Father. You're banned from the beach. Walter farted sadly. Never mind, Walter, said Billy. Let's go for a walk in the village. Just stay away from the beach, warned Mother. Poor Walter, banned from the beach on his first day at the resort. In the quaint little village, lights twinkled in the trees. Everyone was enjoying the gentle breeze and the sweet smell of the tropical night. Walter was enjoying himself too. Travel broadens a dog's mind, he thought, farting philosophically. The Krabbies were sitting nearby at a sidewalk cafe, complaining about their key lime pie. Mrs. Krabby counted the problems on her fingers. It's not big enough. It's not green enough. It's not sweet enough. Or maybe it's too sweet, said Mr. Krabby, smacking his lips. A pelican flapped its wings at Walter, and Walter farted in alarm. The power of Walter's farts blew the meringue off Mr. Krabby's pie. That's the top part of the pie, like the cream part. It landed in his face and made an awful mess. Some people get what they deserve. The Krabbies glared at Walter. That dog is ruining our vacation. Which it sounds like they weren't having very much fun anyway because they're crabby. Next morning, Father got a phone call from the chief of police. "I've had serious complaints about your dog," said the chief. "I'm afraid we can't allow him on our streets." Father hung up. "Sorry, Walter. You're banned from the village." Poor Walter. All he does is fart. It's no big deal. "But where can Walter go now?" asked Billy. "He's grounded," said Father. "He stays inside." "That's not a very nice vacation for Walter," said Betty. Walter farted. "Need I say more?" said Father. When everyone went out to have fun, Walter stayed inside with his nose pressed against the window. There's Walter, probably farting. And there's the family going to the beach. And there's a weird cat right there if you look. Walter's way cooler than any cat. Well, thought Walter, I'll just have to make the best of it. He sniffed around for something to eat and found a sack of strange-looking tropical fruit. The label said, "Cook thoroughly. Do not eat raw." Since Walter couldn't read, he ate it anyway. Then he went to snooze in the sunshine pouring through the window. Oh, what's on the TV up here? New and improved fart blockers. Oh my gosh, Walter could use that. There's that weird cat again. See that weird cat that was in the window. Right, sneaking around Walter's vacation. Betty and Billy were building a sandcastle on the beach. "Look," said Betty, pointing out to the sea. "How did that island get there? It wasn't there before." "It must have been underwater," said Billy. Now that the tide's out, we can get there. Let's go." They waded out through the shallow water to explore the mysterious island. The ocean tide happens during the day. The water gets sucked out further. So things like an island come out during the tide. That's a sweet sandcastle. I wish I could build one like that. "This is the sort of place where you find buried treasure," said Billy, beginning to dig. Suddenly something shiny glittered in the sunlight. "I knew it," yelled Billy, holding up a nickel. "We're rich," yelled Betty. Mr. Krabby sat up under his new beach umbrella. Those nasty children seemed to have found something. The Krabbies waded out to the little island. "Let me help you," said Mr. Krabby, pushing Billy aside. Mr. Krabby found a rusty old key and waved it triumphantly. "I have a feeling that this will unlock something very important," he said. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, he dug up a door, and the key fit perfectly. "Maybe we'll find a whole vacation house," said Betty. There's them digging and Mr. Krabby pushing Billy out of the way. And then this turtle is attacking this guy in this boat. It's a huge turtle. Or a little boat. I don't know. Though they dug for hours, they didn't find anything else, and they didn't notice that their island was shrinking. The tide was rising fast, and the waves began to lap at their feet. Betty looked up and gasped, "How did the beach get so far away?" "It's the tide," cried Billy. "We're marooned." That means they're stranded or stuck. "Out of my way!" shouted Mr. Krabby, and leaping into the water, Mrs. Krabby dove in after him, followed by Betty and Billy. They swam as hard as they could, but the undertow was too strong. The current swirled them around and dumped them back onto their shrinking little island. "Our only hope is to build a raft," said Mr. Krabby. So that's when they jumped in. Luckily, Mr. and Mrs. Krabby are getting stung by bees. Or horseflies. Horseflies hurt too. Walter woke up from his nap with a bad feeling. Betty and Billy must be in trouble. Walter's stomach was rumbling like a volcano from the tropical fruit. that should have been thoroughly cooked. But he ignored it and raced to the screen door. Locked! He stepped back and charged, bursting through the screen and leaving a Walter-shaped hole in the door. Walter ran to the beach and saw 4 figures in the distance, with the water rising around them. Mr. and Mrs. Krabby were launching their raft. Billy was trying to help Betty. All Walter could see of Betty was her little head above the surface and her arms waving frantically. Walter plunged into the surf. Shooting pains twisted him around and flung him back onto the beach. Was it a cramp from swimming too soon after eating? No, it was the tropical fruit that should have been thoroughly cooked. Walter, save us! Cried Billy. There's Betty and Billy and the Krabbies, their raft. And then Walter shooting back on the beach because of that darn tropical fruit he ate. Walter struggled to rise, but the gases produced by the tropical fruit that should have been thoroughly cooked chose this moment to erupt with terrible force. The tropical fruit fart produced a boom that was heard along the coast for miles. Coconuts blew off the trees, and the Krabbies, clutching their new umbrella, were blown all the way to the Sandwich Islands. Well, I don't know where those are, but they must be close. The waves parted around the little island where Betty and Billy were stranded. Layer upon layer of sand and shells were pushed aside, leaving a pathway across the ocean. That is a powerful fart. And who knows, why is there a door there? He must have blew the doors off of something. Even the bird got blown away. But he saved that little boat from the huge turtle. So it actually saved more than 2 people. Saved more than Betty and Billy. Whoever that guy is should thank him. Betty and Billy ran towards shore. Halfway there, Billy tripped on something jutting from the ocean floor. Walter raced out to help him. It was a treasure chest. Bones, thought Walter, hopefully, and grabbed the handle with his teeth. He dragged the chest to the beach. Betty and Billy pried it open. Walter was disappointed to see that it only contained jewels and gold. No bones for Walter. With the money from the treasure, Mother and Father bought the vacation home of their dreams. There was sunshine every day. There was golf and snorkeling and parasailing on the gentle sea breezes. Experts said it was the most important treasure uncovered in a century, which is 100 years. But Betty and Billy disagreed. Walter, they said, you're the greatest treasure of all. How nice. He did uncover all the treasure with his enormous fart. So they should have owned him. He should have bones for life. And there's just a little scene. Krabbies, so at the Sandwich Islands, the Krabbies opened a snack shack. Because they're on the Sandwich Islands. So there's Mr. and Mrs. Krabby with their new snack shack. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed.